I've been admitted to Zurich Polytechnic. I'll be following in your footsteps.
Einstein's IQ was indubitably high, but was the same brilliance passed down to his children? We're all quite well versed with Albert Einstein's groundbreaking discoveries. The father of atomic energy was no less than a celebrity of his era, whose scientific deductions basically changed the entire course of the world. While his work is well celebrated and readily available on any corner of the internet, there's barely anything people seem to know about his personal life. In fact, what happened to the Einstein family after the Nobel-winning theoretical physicist passed in 1955? In this video, we'll decode just that. So without wasting another moment, let's get right to it. But before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. How many children did Albert Einstein have? Einstein was married twice in his life. He met his first wife, Mileva Maric, during his time at Zurich Polytechnic and bonded over their shared passion for physics. What started as a friendship soon blossomed into romance, making the two inseparable. The two got married in 1903, and Einstein had 3 children with her, although he officially mentioned only having 2 sons because their first child was a daughter born out of wedlock. His eldest son, Hans Albert Einstein, was born in 1904, and his second son, Edward Einstein, was born in 1910. Until 1986, it was widely believed that these were the only 2 children Einstein had. However, in 1986, a collection of letters between Albert and his wife, Mileva Maric, was discovered. These letters revealed that they had a daughter named Liserl in 1902, 1 year before their marriage. When the couple separated in 1919, Einstein married his cousin, Elsa Lowenthal, but they never had children together. Did they share their father's brilliance? Einstein's descendants did inherit some of his intellectual abilities to a certain extent. To understand this, let's consider the heritability of IQ. IQ is highly heritable, with genetic factors accounting for a significant portion of its variation, ranging from 50% to over 70% in most estimates, and possibly even higher in some cases. However, when discussing exceptionally intelligent individuals, like Albert Einstein and his children, several factors come into play. Firstly, it's important to acknowledge that Einstein's children inherited their intelligence not only from him, but also from their mother, Mileva Maric. Maric was also a highly intelligent individual who contributed to Einstein's work, although it's commonly assumed that Einstein's intellectual prowess surpassed hers. Thus, the intelligence of Einstein's children is a combination of both their parental contributions. Secondly, there's the concept of regression towards the mean. This phenomenon suggests that if both parents are exceptionally gifted in a certain aspect, their children are likely to inherit some degree of that giftedness, but not necessarily to the same extent. In other words, while the children of geniuses may indeed exhibit their parents' high intelligence, it is improbable that they will surpass the exceptional abilities. More often, they will likely demonstrate above-average intelligence, but not reach the same extraordinary levels as their parents. Now, we understand that the Einstein family has faced considerable health challenges across generations. Each of Albert Einstein's 3 children had their own experiences and struggles. Now let's take a closer look into his children's lives and what it amounted to. Liserl Einstein. Albert Einstein, renowned as one of the greatest physicists in history, harbored a private family secret for years, which was the existence of his daughter, Liserl Einstein. Liserl's existence remained concealed due to the circumstances of her birth. In 1901, Mileva Maric, a fellow physics and mathematics student at Zurich Polytechnic where Einstein studied, left the institution and returned to her native Serbia. It was there in 1902 that she gave birth to Liserl, conceived out of wedlock. Now, even though Mileva's father insisted Einstein take responsibility, he refused because it risked his job and reputation, along with the most disgusting fact that his father did not give him the permission to marry Mileva. While Einstein and Maric subsequently married in 1903, the fate of Liserl Einstein remained shrouded in mystery as she vanished from historical records. Her existence remained undisclosed until decades after the passing of both Maric in 1948 and Einstein in 1955. It wasn't until the unearthing of personal letters between the two in 1986 that Einstein's biographers became aware of Liserl's existence. Liserl Einstein was born on January 27, 1902. In Újvidék, located in what was the Kingdom of Hungary within Austria. Hungary was now a part of Serbia. Beyond the basic information, researchers have uncovered barely anything about the life of Albert Einstein's daughter. Mileva joined Albert in 1903 to marry him, but some of their letters from the previous year confirm that Liserl had scarlet fever. Historians assume that Einstein's daughter was either adopted by one of Maric's relatives and raised somewhere far away, or had succumbed to the illness, likely around the age of 1. So not much can be said about her intelligence or life trajectory. Hans Albert Einstein. Hans Albert Einstein, born on May 14, 1904, in Bern, Switzerland, was the second child of Albert and Mileva Maric Einstein. While living under the shadow of his father's indomitable intellect, Hans Albert managed to carve out his own path in academia. Despite not achieving the same international renown as his father, Hans Albert pursued a career in engineering, dedicating himself to academia and making significant contributions in his field. Despite initial concerns from his father about his career choice, Hans Albert established his own legacy. Growing up with a younger brother, Edward Einstein, and experiencing his parents' separation and eventual divorce, Hans Albert struggled emotionally quite a lot very early in life. However, he found solace in his studies and maintained correspondence with his father, who supported and encouraged him by sharing his discoveries and successes. Throughout his upbringing and into adulthood, Hans Albert Einstein was resilient and determined, ultimately making a name for himself in academia, following in his father's footsteps, while forging his own unique path. Hans Albert Einstein's education was overseen by his mother, and he eventually pursued studies at ETH Zurich, following in his parents' footsteps. He excelled academically, earning a diploma in civil engineering as one of the top students in his class. However, his career choice didn't align with his father's aspirations, and Albert Einstein expressed strong disapproval of Hans Albert's decision, referring to it as a disgusting idea. Their disagreements persisted even after Hans Albert left for school, leading to a strained relationship that took years to mend. After completing his education, Hans Albert moved to Germany, where he worked as an engineer, specializing in steel design for a bridge project. In 1927, he married Frieda Necht, despite his father's vehement disapproval of her. Albert Einstein openly expressed concerns about their relationship, to a point that he even advised his son against having children with Frieda. Despite Albert's initial resistance, he gradually softened his stance toward Hans Albert, as evident in his correspondence with Mileva Maric, where he expressed a newfound fondness for his son, while still harboring reservations about his daughter-in-law. In 1993, amidst the rise of anti-Semitic sentiments and the Nazi Party in Germany raging into power, Albert Einstein fled the country, urging his son to do the same, albeit farther away. So in 1938, Hans Albert heeded his father's advice and immigrated to Greenville, South Carolina, USA. Once in the United States, Hans Albert Einstein began working for the Department of Agriculture, where he applied his expertise in sediment transfer. He later relocated to California and continued his research at the California Institute of Technology. In 1947, he joined the faculty at the University of California, Berkeley, serving as a professor of hydraulic engineering until his passing in 1973. Throughout their lives, Hans Albert maintained correspondence with his father, discussing career matters, shared achievements, and family concerns. When their relationship was not characterized by overt affection, the two managed to establish a respectful partnership that occasionally bordered on warmth. Despite their reconciled differences, Albert Einstein harbored some lingering resentment that his son chose to pursue engineering rather than his own field. Although Hans Albert received recognition for his work, including a Guggenheim Fellowship and several research awards, Einstein probably did not like that his son fell short on the Nobel Prize. Hans unfortunately died of heart failure in 1973, and even children face similar health challenges as the previous generation of Einstein's descendants. Despite having 4 biological children, only one, Bernard Einstein, survived into adulthood. Bernard was quite intelligent and achieved notable success in his own right. He pursued a career in physics and worked in engineering roles at Texas Instruments and Litton Industries. Throughout his lifetime, he obtained several U.S. patents, showcasing his contributions to the field. Even if he had a fulfilling life, Bernard's accomplishments could not reach the same level of his grandfather's renowned achievements. Now, on a saucier note, Hans had an adoptive daughter named Evelyn. Ironically enough, many people believe that this little girl was actually Albert Einstein's illegitimate daughter, born from one of his many affairs, and Hans actually adopted her into the family to save the family's name from being dragged into a scandal. While this might just be a rumor, it's still something to think about. Edward Einstein. Barely anyone knows about the tragic fate of this guy. Edward Einstein was born in Zurich, Switzerland, on July 28, 1910. From the very start, he faced health challenges that prevented him from participating in family outings alongside the rest of the Einsteins. Albert Einstein often expressed deep concern for his son's well-being, lamenting Edward's condition in letters to colleagues and expressing fear about his future. Despite contemplating the possibility of his son's premature demise, Einstein's love led him to support Edward's medical treatment and accompany him to various sanatoriums. As Edward matured, he developed interests in poetry, piano playing, and psychiatry, drawing inspiration from figures like Sigmund Freud. Despite the weight of his father's renown, Edward pursued his own path, enrolling at Zurich University, with aspirations of becoming a psychiatrist. He often reflected on his father's fame, and candidly acknowledged the challenges of living in his shadow, and feeling insignificant in comparison. Following this, Edward Einstein found himself entangled in a tumultuous relationship with an older woman during his university years, which ended pretty badly for him. Around this period, Edward's mental health further deteriorated, leading to a downward spiral, leading him to a suicide attempt in 1930. Later diagnosed with schizophrenia, he endured harsh treatments of the era that exacerbated rather than alleviated his condition, resulting in speech and cognitive impairments. Albert Einstein attributed his son's illness to hereditary factors from his mother's side, though this scientific observation did little to alleviate his grief and guilt. But the burden of Edward's condition weighed heavily on him, and was compounded by the rise of the Nazi Party in Europe. In 1933, Hitler's ascent to power made Einstein's return to the Prussian Academy of Sciences in Berlin impossible, forcing the renowned physicist, who was also Jewish, to flee to the United States. Despite his global acclaim as a scientist, Einstein faced personal and professional upheavals, navigating the complexities of familial challenges and political persecution amidst Hitler's regime. Although Albert hoped that his younger son would join him in seeking refuge in the United States alongside his older brother, Edward Einstein's deteriorating mental health prevented him from making the journey. Before Albert emigrated, he made a final visit to his son at the asylum where Edward was receiving care. Although Albert wrote to him and continued to provide financial support for his son's well-being, they unfortunately never met again. Edward spent the remainder of his life in a Swiss asylum, ultimately passing away from a stroke at the age of 55 in October 1965. He was laid to rest in Hungerberg Cemetery in Zurich, after spending over 3 decades at the psychiatric clinic of Bergolsli at the University of Zurich. So that's everything we know about the fate of Einstein's children. Let us know what you think about this video. Also, please feel free to share your own thoughts and opinions in the comment box below. And if you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!